This is your Places Call. You're listening to Theatrical Thoughts. I'm Emily Wyra.
And I'm Jessica Fight.
And today we are joined by Broadway's very own Robert Creighton. Robert most recently originated the role of Duke Wesselton in Frozen on Broadway and has been in the original companies of numerous Broadway shows over the years.
Robert, we are so excited to talk to you today. How are you?
Thanks, Jesse. And Emily, I'm great. I've had a bit of a long day with kids home from school today, 7 and 9-year-old kids, but happy to talk to you. Delighted.
We are so excited. So you mentioned before we started recording, your kids just went back to school. How's that been going?
Yeah, that's amazing. We've been over a year out of school, except we made a little shift away from the New York area for the school year this year, and they were in a hybrid, so they were home 3 days, at school 2 days, but a week ago they went back 5 days a week, which was phenomenal for them. Great for us, to have a little space in the day, and then they got a cold on the weekend, or like immunity wasn't up for 5 days a week yet, so they were home today, but they'll be back in school tomorrow, and it finished the year strong, 5 days a week, which we needed it. It's good.
Oh yeah, I feel like my life just changed going back 5 days. It's nice to have the routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would have thought that there would be so many people that actually wanted to go to school? It's crazy.
My daughter this morning was walking around our bed, because we already decided last night she wasn't going to go, just out of respect, even if she was feeling a little better for everyone at school. And I want to go to school. I want to go to school. She wanted to go to school so bad. And I was like, well, that's music to my ears. / I'm sorry, you cannot go to school. So, but it was good that she wanted to.
The absolute irony. I don't think that
I know.
any of us would have thought that would be what she was crying about.
So crazy.
Good.
So we start each episode with a 60-second life story. So Emily will hold up a timer, and then...
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, we hold you to it.
Yeah.
Official.
Yes, my very official iPhone timer, but
life story. Okay.
Here.
60-second life story. Give the highlights. All right.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, so I was born in a little town north of Toronto in Canada, in Ontario. I grew up singing. Music was my way into the performing arts, and playing piano and all the instruments and all that stuff, and also hockey. My 2 dreams were to be a goalie in the NHL and to be on Broadway. I went through high school, then went and did a vocal performance degree in university, which led me to New York, where I did a 3-year acting degree, got out of school, didn't get my first Broadway show for 10 years, but then I did lots of work in there, fun things. But now I've done 8 Broadway shows, a lot of TV. I have a beautiful wife, 2 great kids. I like to write. I wrote a show called Cagney that's been sort of the highlight of my career. We had a big hit off-Broadway show, and we're going to be in London in the fall doing a workshop. I'm currently living in Buffalo. Hey, I got 9 seconds left, and I told you everything I want to tell you. I have a big family in Canada, which I'm longing to see, and I'm happy always to talk about the theater.
That was amazing.
That was so good.
Very succinct. I'm impressed. That was one of the more solid 60-second life stories.
Really? Wow.
So you mentioned you kind of got into music through kind of the vocal music side. Yeah. So kind of how did that start? Like, how were you getting into it as a kid?
Yeah, so I was like my kids now. My kids sing 24/7 around the house, and my son never takes a shower without belting. Like, he just belts the whole time while he's in the shower. It is hysterical. I have so many videos of opening the door and sneaking around the corner, and he'll Dad stick his head out. But for me, yeah, I grew up singing a lot, and for anyone who would listen. And then I was really lucky. A boys' choir. This gentleman from my little tiny rural Ontario town. He had gone off to study in London, in England. And I say London, England, because there's a London, Ontario, not far from where I live, which is a pretty big city in Ontario, but you wouldn't know that. London, and came back and started this really high-end boys choir where kids from all over the sort of region came. And it was based in an Anglican church, but we also sang at lots of secular events and things. But I got really great musical training. I could sight read music when I was 8, 9 years old. We toured England for a summer, singing in cathedrals and stuff. So vocally, it was really the first thing. And then I always wanted to be a dancer. uh, when I was a kid. I loved old movies. I loved Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and all these guys. And I went to 2 classes when I was 7 years old because I wanted to tap dance. I wanted to dance. And I was the only boy in my class. And I was really into hockey, really into sports at the time too. And I went home after the second class and said, Mom, I can't go back. I'm the only boy. I don't want the guys on my hockey team to find out that I want to dance, which now as an adult, I would say to my 7-year-old, say, who cares, man? Just dance. You love it. But of course, then when you're 7, it's such a big deal. Um, so I didn't really get any formal training on that side. Danced all the time. I mean, in other ways and at home. And I have 4 sisters and my parents were beautiful, like on the floor, ballroom type, not ballroom per se, but beautiful old fashioned dancers. And so I learned how to do all those old steps and lead my sisters, even as a little guy around the dance floor. But vocally was really the main thing, and sang in all the music festivals where you compete, you get adjudicated and compete, and did that in piano and trumpet and voice. So music was kind of leading the way. Um, and then at 15, I did a community theater production in a town about a half hour away. I played the Artful Dodger and Oliver. And um, that's when I really decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I just loved it. It just felt like the thing that it lit me up. There was a spark in me that when I was on stage and performing, even before that, but that's when I really said, okay, this is it. And I honestly, as corny as it sounds, that has never left. Like performing, it's been such a tough 14 months, right? From doing 8 shows a week for a number of years, little breaks here and there, but I've been pretty lucky to work a lot over the last 20 years. And to be not performing is, I miss it, really miss it, because it does light my fire. Yeah, and I started dancing when I did a summer program when I was 18 and learned like a handful of steps, tap steps. And I was at this school called the Banff Center School of Fine Arts in Western Canada. Really exciting to be there. They accept 40 kids from all over Canada. My oldest sister and I both got in, which was crazy. And there were only 3 18-year-olds, which I was at the time. Learned a few tap steps. I would practice them every night, like to the wee hours on like a tile bathroom floor downstairs where no one could hear. I got so good at those steps. I didn't know, I had very limited repertoire, but I just loved it. And then I went to university, found a teacher, took some private lessons, a few. And then when I got to New York, while I was at acting school, I went nuts on the side, like 4 or 5 classes a week, really trying to get good. And thankfully I did. Got pretty good in a hurry because I wanted it so bad. And tap has been a big part. Tap dancing and dancing in general on Broadway has been part of my journey. Um, but yeah, I still, I don't know what your question was or if I answered it, but music was my way in, and it still is a thing that I'm. Uh, I would say if someone asked me now, "What's your main thing?" I say primarily I would call myself an actor. Like I'm lucky that I work in the musical theater, but I also do plays and I also do TV but singing really is my joy, I would say, in a lot of ways. Yeah, and music in general, writing music now too.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's such a wild journey to go through. That's so cool. And it's so cool that
Yeah.
you got to share it with your family through the years too.
Yeah, my family's always been very supportive. My dad was a family doctor in our small town, and my mom was a nurse. Well, she when she started having kids and had 6 of them, so it was a long time. She sort of stopped nursing, and then when I was in 7th grade, she went back to become my dad's nurse at his office. Um, but they were very supportive of my dream of being on Broadway. When I did a play. Well, I can remember a couple moments along the way there, like when I was 12 or 13, and I still had the hockey dream, which, I'm not a big guy, I'm a little guy. And I was good at it, but all the guys were getting bigger at that point, and I was, you know, and I loved doing so many other things. I remember my dad saying, you're not going to go to the NHL. I was like, yes, I am. I can do it. But no, you're really good at the other stuff, singing and stuff. You should stick with that uh, for now, And I never thought, I don't think they thought I was so serious about it until after did that Artful Dodger. I think I was 16 or so, a little while later. I called this school in Toronto and made myself an appointment to get to audition for this like performing arts school in Toronto. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I thought if I get in, I'd find my way there. One of my siblings would drive me, and I would, I was trying to sneakily audition to go away to school when I was 16." He's like, "No, no, no." But then I did a play while I was in university of Brighton Beach Memoirs, and I distinctly remember my dad saying to me afterwards, "You're doing the right thing. Like, stay on this path. You're doing, you got it. So keep going." Um, yeah. So yes, they did share it with them all along the way. All my siblings have been very supportive, and they all come to my shows in New York and from Canada, and it's been great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So now you're trying to sneak in your Toronto auditions, but I'm assuming you didn't have to sneak past your parents to get to New York.
Well, no, because they had to pay for it. So there was no sneaking. There was no sneaking in that one. But they put their money where their mouth was, and really supported me, going there. And it's funny you say that, because there's so many, as a parent now, I think, and I'm sure your parents feel the same way. My biggest dream for my kids is for them to find a passion, and for me to have the means to support them developing that passion. Like, they have to learn to work for it and want it and work for it and do all those things. But and as they do that, if there's opportunities to develop that talent, that's what I want to do for them. I want them to find the thing that lights their fire, and then be able to bring them opportunities to, progress that. And my parents, very consciously, when I went to New York, they knew I wasn't going to slack off and party or blah. Like, I was going to be on Broadway, and there was no give up in that. There was no taking no for an answer. And so I didn't have to have a job while I was in school in New York. I really just went to school, went to tap classes all the time. Our school there, American Academy of Dramatic Arts, got us a lot of tickets, free tickets to everything, like Broadway, off Broadway, off Broadway, opera, dance shows, comedy shows, you name it. They would have like flyers up on the wall, and you would sign your name until they ran out of tickets. And I would see like 3, 5, 6 nights a week. I was out seeing some sort of cultural event, and learning from that. One of the things I would say to you, or to someone, if anyone's listening to this who wants to do this for a living, like on this side, I know that that's not the focus for you two, but on the acting side of things, see everything, because if it's great, you're totally inspired. You're like, I want to be able to do that someday. And you're totally inspired by it. If it's terrible, where I was at that point, if it was something that was really not good, I was totally inspired by it, because like, that person's up there doing it. I can definitely do this. So either way, it was inspiring, whether it was great, and in New York, so often it is. You're like, oh, I just want to keep working so I can get to that level. And if it's bad, you're like, oh, okay, I could do this. So, but I was really lucky that my parents were so supportive, and got to be in New York and really focus. And I would say, of my growth period, like those 3 years where I was reading plays every week and seeing all these things and around other people who have similar passion, and it was a um, real time of growth for me. Yeah.
That's so amazing. What a cool journey that got you to New York and everything. I think that's just so cool. So now your first playbill credit was in stand-up comic Jackie Mason's Laughing Room Only.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that experience, how that was like, and how you booked it.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun that you asked how I booked it, because I would have told you that story anyway. Because, yeah, that was a crazy. That was an interesting part of the journey. I'll just give you a little backstory up to that, because I graduated from this school I was just talking about. Um, I worked right away in a play and got my equity card in an off-Broadway play. Uh, and then I didn't work for 10 months. I got a job at a law firm, Rockefeller Center, through a friend of mine, just as a gopher, like filing and stuff, but became such good friends with the partners there. They let me leave and go to tap class. And, but all that time I'm thinking, okay, my Broadway show, I'm out of school now. In my acting school, you had to get invited back every year. There were over 200 in the first year, 64 in second year, and 18 in the third year. So once you get into that, you are showcased to agents and different things, and you come out feeling like, okay, I got a shot at this. But anyway, worked right away. Didn't work for 10 months. Got shows at Paper Mill. Got a show. You probably know Paper Mill, Jersey Girls. Um, did a couple shows at Paper Mill and a Pepsi commercial, and that sort of got me going. And then I worked regionally and at New York City Opera for a couple seasons and really fun parts, and toured for a year and stuff, but couldn't crack that Broadway nut. And that was the dream. And so I would, and doing lots of fun other New York things maybe, but couldn't quite get a Broadway show. And it's not easy. The competition is hard. And I'm a character guy. uh, I always joke about when I do my cabaret, I joke about how, when I first moved to New York, all he wanted me to do was leading man parts, like, the romantic leading man parts. But I found the tall, dark, handsome thing really hard to maintain. So I started playing like chubby sidekicks, and my career really took off. But, it was a choice.
That's incredible.
It was a choice, it was a choice. So but always believing that it was coming. A lot of my friends, even of those 18 that made it through acting school, a lot of them, went on to do other things, which is totally valid because, it's a hard journey. You have to stick with it while everybody else tries, fades away. You just, for me, it was like, there was no option. Just keep going. And so cut to Jackie Mason. I'm just giving you the context of coming up to that. And then had an audition. It was Jackie Mason. You may or may not know, very famous comedian who had done several successful one-man shows on Broadway and decided he wanted to do a musical. And so it was Jackie Mason and five sort of character. He was looking for five character people to do songs and sketches, like a musical SNL almost, with him coming into each sketch in some way. So I knew they wanted real characters, a lot of stuff. So I made a real risk in that audition. And even having never booked a Broadway show before, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something really different. And you don't, like, when I'm telling young people or anybody about auditioning and coaching them on something, you don't really go in character, right? You go in as you, and you don't dress in costume. You dress maybe sometimes to imply a costume, but you don't go in costume. As a professional, you go in, you're just showing them your talent, you're prepared, you do the work, and you let them see if you fit into their puzzle. I didn't do that with this. I totally went in a character named Ernest Finkelstein, who's this hyperactive nerd character that I developed several years before doing summer stock while I was in university, who had glasses with tape around the middle and hi, I can't stay long because my mother's out in the car. But she said if I came in here, there'd be people I could talk to. She didn't tell me there'd be this many people. So I do this character, Ernest Finkelstein, right? And so the monitor of the audition comes out and is taking people in, and sort of one before mine, I say, when you get to me, can you not introduce me as Robert Creighton? I'm just going to come in beside, like, you open the door and I'm just going to burst past you. So she came out and I was next, and she just nodded at me, and she went to go back in as she would with all the other actors, introduce their name. And I just came in and go, hi, I'm Ernest Finkelstein. I can't stay long because my mother's in the car. And I said, I know I wrote, you want to hear me sing? I wrote a song. I take out a piece of paper, unfold the paper. Ernest Finkelstein is my name. It's true. And I wrote this silly little song, and then and I do all these silly things as Carol. Like, I check my fly and I say, terrible things, words I can't say, like I'm having a problem with with a with the GIRL, and I can't talk to my mother about a person of the opposite the opposite the opposite gender. I mean, you just can't do that, right? So I do this whole crazy character and all my little bits. Oh my God, I'm so scared. I realized, anyway, I won't do the whole routine. And I finish, and I go, thank you very much. I go see my mom. And I walk out the door, and I literally, like, I have my hair parted, I mess up my hair, throw off this jacket, these plaid pants, throw down, I have pants and a shirt underneath. I'm about to walk back in. I'm like, oh my God, that guy was crazy. And I walked over and said, hi, I'm Robert Creighton. Nice to meet you. Very calmly. Nice to meet you, Robert Creighton. Shook everybody's hand at the table. And then they started burst out laughing. They burst out laughing because before they're looking at me and they're kind of chuckling, but they're like, is this real? Is it not real? Like, what is happening? And then I came back in as me, and we chatted, and I got the job. They called me later that afternoon. I booked the job. So it was an absolute 100% risk. Could have gone either way. And That's how I booked my first Broadway show. And I always tell people, like, all the biggest career highlights for me have come from really taking risks when trusting my instincts and taking a risk in that audition. The show, there was a long lead up to the show. We worked out of town for a few months in Nyack, doing it there. And then we came into the Brooks Atkinson Theater, and we only lasted for 2 weeks, previewed for a month, ran for 2 weeks, closed. Jackie Mason was not cut out to work with other people. If the audience wasn't responding the way he wanted, he would abandon the script that was setting up our whole musical number that we're about to do and do his old routine, whip them into a frenzy because he's really good comedian at the time. And then we say we're doing a number about Starbucks, and he'd finish his routine, nothing to do with Starbucks, and goes, no, a song about Starbucks. And we come out with no setup, no context, and it was like, so it didn't last long, but it didn't diminish the joy and the exaltation of finally cracking that nut and being on Broadway. My whole family had 23 people there opening night. All my family, like mentor, director who had given me my start in Canada, older guy I'd worked with many times. So I called my comedy mentor. It was like close family, become a close family friend. They were all there. They're all in the audience opening night. It was, I'm bawling, crying during the curtain call. So I'm just so happy and grateful to have achieved that dream. Yeah, and that sort of got me going. And then I've been really lucky. I've done 8 Broadway shows now and lots of great fun lead roles, and originated several roles on Broadway. And yeah, it's been really wild since then. But that was the first one.
Okay,
I have
can
to
I just
say that was probably the funniest audition story we've ever heard. And we've heard a lot of different ones, but that's probably one of the best we've ever heard.
Oh,
I was
good.
losing my mind. That was
Crazy.
beautiful.
It was crazy.
The fact that you still remember it to this day too, I think that's incredible.
Wow, it was a
hysterical.
big moment for me.
Like,
Yeah.
I imagine that must be like tattooed on your brain.
Oh, for sure. Well, not just that particular incident, but the theory of taking the risk is what's tattooed on my brain and my soul, not only in theater, but in life. When your instinct tells you and you really believe that that's the right choice, sometimes it's not going to be a win. It could go either way sometimes. And I've had others. My Frozen audition story could have gone either way because I, again, took a little risk. But as I say, all the biggest wins, the biggest opportunities that have come from me have resulted from having this little voice inside that said, wouldn't it be funny if I went in as Ernest Finkel's? No one else is going to do that. That feels right. I know, just go in, go for it. And then, and then doing it, and then it pays off. I mean, that is what's tattooed on my brain. And I talk myself into it about things even now in life as a parent, and as, deciding what to do after Broadway shut down, and there are moments now where if my instinct is strong, I don't deny that. And even if it means taking a risk, I have enough life experience now, and I'm sharing it with you to say that when you have an instinct that's strong and you believe it's the right instinct, it's coming from a good place, then you got to go for it. That's when the good stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here endeth my speech to you.
Thanks for attending the TED Talk, folks.
Exactly. I'm ready for that.
So after you did the comedy show, you went on to do Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and then you had your first Disney gig, which is the first time that you were working with Disney on Broadway. So you did Little Mermaid, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that. A little bit jealous because I love that show.
And fun fact, that was the first Broadway show I saw. So maybe I saw you in it. That would have been crazy if I saw you in it.
Chances are you did. Do you know what year? Like when you saw it, it opened.
I was 4, so it was.
It opened
years
January
ago.
2008, and it ran till August 2009.
So Jesse, if you were 4, then you saw it that first year. So then you definitely saw it.
I'm as soon as we're done, I'm gonna check my playbill and
get that playbill.
I have 3 playbill binders, and I will be looking through until.
I love it. I have. So we moved recently. I have boxes of playbills because, as I said, even when I was in acting school, like decades ago now, I kept every single playbill, dated it, and I have them all. kept them in storage. My wife thinks I'm nuts. She's like, those gotta go. Hey, pick your favorites maybe or something, but they gotta go because I have boxes of flavors. So that's a project that's coming up. Um, but Little Mermaid was when that was an audition. That one I had 5, maybe 6, I think auditions for like to get into the show. It was a series of auditions, and then we had a Healy audition because that's how they were doing Under the Sea. Like we were on those shoes that have heels, so you had to learn how to use those, and they test you on that. And then I was auditioning for Scuttle originally, the seagull, and it got down to 3 guys. Um, and at that point, that was probably the most nerve wracking audition I had because it's Disney, it's Little Mermaid. They had New World Stages was fairly new at the time. Audition was there. I had my own dressing room for an audition. Like you come and the guy leads you. Okay, you're gonna be in here, and we'll call you when it's your turn. You'll come on stage. Uh, you won't be able to see. There's a lot of people out. There was like tons of people out in the theater, all Disney executives and like the real high ups, and then the theatrical people and blah blah blah. Yeah. So went through that whole process. I didn't get it, but I got the understudy. Um, and I understudied Scuttle and Chef Louis, and that's what I did for the first 5 months of the run. Um, but I made a decision. So we had been out of town, Denver, for several months, and I'm getting my philosophical things today, apparently, because uh, another thing that I think will, because you both sound when we were talking beforehand, so you know, clear on what you want to do, which is amazing, and that is what's going to set you apart. Like setting your path for that and making choices that relate to what your dreams and goals are. Right. So for me, now this is my 3rd Broadway show. Did the whole out of town try. I loved it. And I was never I didn't, what I'm about to tell you, I didn't make this choice because I was ungrateful or frustrated. I loved going to work. I loved being on stage with everybody performing, blah, blah, blah. But having understudied in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Goran, a guy named Chip Zine, great actor, but I played one of the inventors and other little parts in the ensemble and understudied that and went on, you know, once in a while. And then Mermaid, I'm understudying Scuttle and Chef Louis. And we get to January. So we've opened and I'm up on this pod that used to circle over the audience. There were these big arms that went out and we were on them. I was in we're under the sea in this onesie with wings and I'm under, like I'm a sea creature. And I had a ball and I loved doing it. But I made a choice. January 2008. I've read it several times over the years in my journal when I wrote about it, and I said, I'm going to start playing leads. It was like when it's New Year's, you're making resolutions. I said, I'm going to play leads on Broadway. I'm not going to be an ensemble anymore. I'm not going to understudy anymore. And not because I don't love being it. It's very valid and I loved it, but it wasn't where I knew I wanted to be ultimately. And I didn't feel it was where my talents at the time. I was like, I know I can do this, but because you can dance and do all the other things, sometimes you're more valuable in, the ensemble and understudying several parts. Anyway, 4 months later, I got offered Damn Yankees, the Encore series. If you know what that is in New York at City Center, they have a summer one. It's about 7 weeks long. And I was going to be playing Smokey, great role in Damn Yankees with Sean Hayes as the devil and Jane Krakowski and all these great people. And I asked for a leave of absence from Mermaid for a month. I could have done the 7-week job, but only missed shows for a month. And they wouldn't grant me, they felt bad about it. It was too soon in the run. It was just policy and they wouldn't grant me. I had a great relationship with them. And so I left the show. I left what Little Mermaid, like what at the time they thought was going to be like Lion King, it's going to run forever. And everybody's like, what are you doing? And I said, I made a choice that I'm going to play lead roles now in New York and on Broadway. And that's what I put out there. Now it's been offered to me. It's manifested itself here. And so how can I say no to that? That's what I asked for. So I did that and then a risk and then did that run. And then shortly after that, so that ran in the summer. And then sometime in like July or August, they said, we'd like you to come back and take over Chef Louis when John Tracy Egan, the guy who originated the role, is leaving. And I Tom Schumacher, who's the head of Disney Theatrical. You just have to go sing. He hasn't seen you do the part. So I went to a boardroom at the Disney offices. Michael Cosrin, the musical director. I sang Les poissons, les poissons. Oh, I love les poissons. So I sang les poissons, and there's a big high B flat, big high note at the end. And they gave me the job on the spot. Tom Schumacher's like, you got the job. And so I did the last year of Little Mermaid as Chef Louis, but it would not have happened had I not left what was seemingly a very secure job, a Broadway job, to do a 7-week encore show because of a decision I made about choosing my path. And then subsequently, I've played lead roles. Those were the first 3 Broadway shows, and then the last 5 have all been, lead roles. I've only understudied in there once, and it was Joel Grey. So I had a lead part, but I also understudied Joel Grey opposite Sutton Foster. So that you don't say no to. And I left playing Amos in Chicago on Broadway to do that. So that was again a choice. But so Little Mermaid was a wonderful experience. Still have really great life friends and relationships and colleagues, collaborators from that particular show. People who I'm very, very close to.
Okay. I love this philosophical energy we've got going,
good.
but I think that it's so
Well, I feel
exciting.
Sorry,
You're like, no, you go.
Well, no, just that I love that you're doing this, that you're taking this initiative and at your age and then you have these visions of what you're going off to do and these passions and stuff. And so I don't know, it's just coming out of me. I feel like I want to offer these nuggets to you. I don't mean it in a I hope you take them as not in a condescending way. I hope you don't feel that at all. No. I just like, just because I still, as I say it to you, I'm saying it to myself. You never stop. It's not like, oh, I got it all figured out. I had a rough day today, to be honest with you. With my kids homesick from school and just trying to get a lot of stuff done and also get them going for the day. So I say this to you, and I'm glad that we're talking about it because it also reinforces it for myself,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying it to me and you.
Well, we are loving it. This is so
good.
So cool. And I think that just the idea of, making those active decisions of going forth and forging your path, that's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's important.
You touched on Chicago. And I feel like I have to ask you about this because I really love Chicago.
She's gonna geek out about this.
I'm gonna geek out about this. So you did Amos, which is,
yeah,
I'm gonna say it's controversial. My favorite role in the show. It's so good. Such a cool part. I guess kind of how did you approach that character? Just purely for my selfish curiosity.
No, Emily, Mr. Cellophane is truly one of the great songs in musical theater. You've hitched your
wagon
to a great horse in the show Chicago. I auditioned for that show. I felt like I was at the time I was kind of young for it, and the guys who played it were usually really like looked different than me, heavier and but I had sort of my own take on it. He was kind of very New York, Chicago, but Chicago kind of a little, rough guy as opposed to he was a little rougher and dimmer than Meek. Anyway, got the part. I loved singing that song more than any song I think I've sung on Broadway every night, because as an actor, it was just a monologue where you smiled, at the end you're smiling and, cellophane, Mr. But yet by the end, I would have a tear coming down my face, even though I was trying to smile through it, and holding that at the end where you sing the big last note, and no one even hears you. And then I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, and you walk off. I mean, it's just a song that you have to get out of the way of the song. Just say the words, be fully into it, and it just crushes the audience every night, and if you try and you don't gild the lily as they or try and add on too many things, just do the song the way simply with with great intention, and it's just such a great acting exercise every night. I loved it so much, and the music, the vibe with the band on stage, and I cycled through a few different like Billy Flynn's and Roxy's. I started with Charlotte Dembois. Was a little older than me, but such a great actor. And the scene where I came in about the baby, and then we're sitting on the stage in front of the band, and you know, you could feel the audience like with you, and Brett Barrett as Billy Flynn. Oh, Bianca Marroquin was one of my other Roxy's. Just this ferocious talent. Oh, fell in love with her doing that on stage. And uh, Coleman Domingo. Do you know Coleman? He's a big. He just was he nominated for an Oscar, Golden Globe. He's become a big movie star, but he was great. Played opposite him for a little while, and yeah, it was a thrilling experience. And then Anything Goes came up, and it was a smaller role, a purser, but it just was really roundabout, understudying Joel Grey, Sutton Foster, a million other great actors in it. So I left Chicago to go do that. Actually overlapped for a month, which is, just like you're living the dream. I couldn't believe. I just like, if anyone saw me walking around New York, I probably was about this far off the ground walking around, because I'm at rehearsal. I'm leaving rehearsal, but I'm going to my Broadway show for another Broadway show. It never happens. And I could just remember being so like, how's this happening to me? This is the best thing ever. So, but yeah, I loved Chicago.
I
I'd like to do it again.
I would, if you do it again, please let me know. I will be
We
there.
will be there the first show.
Yay,
if-
I
good.
love Chicago so much. It's not even okay. So you leave Chicago to do Anything Goes, and you're mentioning this kind of overlap. So rehearsal during the day, and then killing it in Mr. Cellophane, the best number in the show, at night. How did you balance that? Like, how was that kind of interim period for you?
Yeah, the one thing I've been blessed with in my life is a lot of energy. Like I just am very fortunate that way. And I remember feeling like sometimes I guess I would go after rehearsal, take a little nap in my dressing room, and then do, eat and do the evening show and stuff. But basically I found I was energized by what was happening there, because it was sort of a perpetual adrenaline rush. The thought that I was getting to do one Broadway show and rehearse with these amazing people, this other, and tap dance during the day and stuff. There was no need for balance in terms of, I had a relationship, but that was just, everybody was excited for everybody. And, I was just living my dream fully, so I didn't feel like, oh, this is hard, or, I'm really lucky that way. Like I was starting my third year of Frozen, which I never thought I would have done the Duke of Wesselton for that long, but I loved that job. I loved my dressing room mates. As I said, I have small kids, and it fit with my life so well. Um, I was just so happy going to work, and it was never like, I love doing 8 shows a week. I didn't always love rehearsing, being called for rehearsal for certain things, although I didn't have to rehearse a lot, very little for my track. Um, but I love it so much that it never feels like I'm struggling. You ask about balance. It was more struggle with that in terms of family. Once I had a family, kids, and doing a show, then I'm conscious of balance. Uh, the show I did leading up to Frozen was a show called Cagney, about the life of James Cagney, actor from the 1930s. Do you know who he is, James Cagney? Oh.
I feel like now I need to go watch a
Hey
bunch
guys,
of
I gotta go. Okay, I'm sorry. It's been really fun talking to you. Just kidding. But yes, your homework. I'm gonna send you a little list of your top movies to watch. It's
I will
okay.
1000%
You
go
will
for
be
it.
up until 2 a.m. tonight watching.
Good. I would have been shocked if you did, because do you know the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy? Have you ever seen that come on,
Yeah,
and your
yeah,
parents
yeah,
watch
yeah.
it 4th of July? That's James Cagney. I look a bit like him. Anyway, it was my dream in acting school to create a show about his life. This is a whole nother 45 minutes. So, but this was the real dream, was creating the show about James Cagney. Um, Started writing it, and then needed help finding my way into that, and I started collaborating. Wrote the music and lyrics, a bunch of which is still in there, and then collaborated with someone else to flesh that out. And we did it at Florida a couple times, in Canada, and then the York Theater in New York, and got a commercial producer and did a run that became 15 months at the West Side Theater on 43rd Street in 2016-17. Did that, did the lab of Frozen while I was doing that, and then that went right, had a month off, and then into Frozen. Um, but that was the reason I talk about that, is because for me, I was on stage. Show was 2 hours and 5 minutes, and I was probably on for an hour and 55 of those 2 hours. I was on for 2 hours a night. Major tap dance numbers all night, fighting scenes, shouting, involved in 11 songs, singing. Uh, it was, yeah, it was an athletic endeavor. It was a marathon, and and with my kids being very young at that point, like 3 and 5 when it started, trying to get enough sleep so my voice could recover and all those things. When we did it, the first run in New York was a 5-week run. Opened on a Thursday. I guess we previewed for 5 shows or so, and then uh, a weekend, and then opened, and then that Sunday night. So the Sunday night of the second week, I went out to dinner, had friends in town seeing the show. My wife was at the show. We went out. We're waiting at the restaurant, sharing. I was just drinking water and stuff, but sharing one little drink because I was like still recovering from the show. Well, anyway, they come. Friends are there. Yay! They were at the matinee, and then they're at dinner, and yay! Da, 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 and everybody's talking. We order stuff. I passed out, like at the restaurant, um, for over a minute, and like towel of ice around my neck my buddy had, and da, da, da. Well, it turns out I was so depleted from doing the show, so dehydrated, and so because the show, at that point I hadn't learned how to, for the long run. I had a nutritionist and a health routine, and I was on a supplements like an NFL player would take, because every day I would just, I would lose weight every night when I did the show. I could eat anything I wanted. I was the skinniest I've ever been and fittest I've ever been in my life. It's crazy. But that run, yeah, literally I passed out at the restaurant because, and I had to go see Dr. Sent me to a heart guy. My heart was totally great. He just said, you're just, by the second show of the week, you're completely dehydrated and you can never catch up. You have to do all these things afterwards, and you're not eating enough. And so you live and learn. But that, I found physical balance when I did the long run, and balance with family, trying to engage. That's why Frozen was so great, because my part was so much fun. Did you guys see Frozen? So Wesselton, I'm in it enough, that you're very present, but I would finish my scene and go back up and watch a little hockey game or read a book, and, and then come back on, do another scene, and then come back off and chat with somebody, and, whatever. And then I could get up early with my kids and drive them to school. My wife runs her own business, and um, she'd be working and stuff, but I would take, and I didn't have to worry all the time about my voice and my body, like I did during Cagney. That's why I loved doing it. I mean, I loved Cagney was, I'm talking too much now. The Cagney experience was amazing, but it took everything out of me all week, and trying to be able to do that enough 8 hours a week and save enough to do the show, but also engage fully with my young kids was very challenging, but also great. Also great. And I did it, which shocked me that I could do it, and learned that I could do it, made me stronger in every possible way, vocally, physically, mentally. And so Frozen was like a real gift after that. So
Wow, that's
balance.
balance. To sum it up, balance.
Yeah.
So now going into Frozen, this is your third Disney Broadway show.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that experience differ from the other ones, or just what was that experience like?
It's a great question. As big as I thought Little Mermaid was, and then my second Disney show, I did a year in Toronto in The Lion King, and then 8 months in LA, and then 4 months on Broadway as Timon. In The Lion King, that was already a machine that was running. It was very exciting when we did it in Toronto, because it was only the second production of Lion King after New York. But Frozen was a whole different animal than those two. I'm sure Lion King might have been the same at the beginning, but Frozen is the biggest Disney movie ever, and so therefore it was a massive machine of pressure for a lot of people. I didn't personally feel it as much, but you did feel it, like, because sometimes John Lasseter would come to rehearsal and sit in the middle, who produced who's Pixar and and all the big Disney mucky mucks would be there at a run through, and um all eyes were on it, and it's a global franchise. So it wasn't just like you're doing a Broadway show. You're doing this giant thing that everyone feels so strongly about, and all little girls are just like looking up to, and um, bringing it to the stage. So it did feel different in that way. It was heightened for sure, and everybody was aware of that. And I think that affected, like, I loved it all the way along. I think it was very challenging for some people involved because the, um, Casey and Patty are the most amazing women. I love them as people. First of all, they're dear friends and I love them. They're also amazing professionals. But there's no question there was a lot of pressure on them throughout. I don't think they were separated from the pressure. They felt it, and they were responsible for a lot of things but they're both up for it and rose to the occasion. But it wasn't normal in that way where it's just a Broadway show. Not any Broadway show is a big deal because a lot of money involved and a lot of eyes on it. But yeah, this one was different for sure. And then once we got rolling, it was really fun. It was just really fun. And doing the Tony Awards, that was the second time I got to do the Tony Awards, and that was just it's I walked down, I have a great entrance in Frozen, the big giant doors, and on the front, I walked down straight down center with my two giant guards. And in the show, they dressed me, they made my coat after Denver, they made my coat even longer, went right to the coat, to the floor for the second act. So I looked mini up there with these two great big tall guards. But my entrance was like, wow, with the big red sash and down the middle. So I got to do that in the Tony Awards, singing away. Yeah, it's like I'm walking and singing. It's no big deal. It's not, when I did Anything Goes, I was tap dance. Sutton Foster's here and I'm here and we're tap dancing away in the middle of the TV, and I'm like inside my heart's at an all-time high level because you're like, don't screw up, just concentrate. But this one, I was like, it's gonna be easy. I walk, I sing, no big deal. And then and so I wasn't nervous at all until we got to radio. Even at rehearsal at Radio City, I was like, oh, this is wow, Radio City. The last time I did it before that was at the Beacon Theater. The one year they did the Beacon. And then that night though, when we got there and you get dressed at your theater and they take you over in a bus and you get out and you go in, and then I was like, what is going on? The butterflies in my stomach. Why am I so nervous? Calm down, man. You just have to walk and sing. But it's so big. So everybody who's in theater and all the people you grew up with are, and there you are walking down, camera on you. And yeah, it was amazing. But isn't that what we do it? That's what I do it for. It was like that feeling of butterflies, but then doing it anyway. So yeah, Frozen was different, and so grateful to have been a part of it. Super sad when they announced it wasn't coming back after Broadway. Even when Broadway reopened, it was, that was super sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one hit hard. That one hit me hard.
But Emily and I definitely know that feeling of the butterflies. But although it's so scary, it's like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's right. You're living. That means you're living full. You're there. You're in it. It's great.
1000%. It's like it's this unique adrenaline. I don't know. There's something about it.
Yep.
Gotta love it though. So you're kind of talking about this pressure that you're feeling, especially in the early stages of that show. Once you kind of got to opening, did that kind of let off, or was it still like every day you were kind of working, you were like, oh, this is big?
Well, we had different stages, right? So we did a lab. I was part of a lab in New York where it was 5 weeks, and we, that was a big deal. I spent a lot of money on that. You're in not really, you're not in a costume at all. There's some props, there's some footwear. It's choreographed. They have the two big princess beds built and other little set pieces, but that was highly pressurized because they're really trying to work it out. Even the creative team is kind of auditioning for their job at that point. And the run through that we did at the end of it, the couple run throughs, there's like 200 people in this rented theater, but they're all like Disney executives and marketing people, and everybody's scrutinizing heavily. It's very pressurized. And then the Denver out of town tryout, we had so much fun out there, and my family came out. And we had a blast, but you felt the pressure of, okay, this is Frozen, and they're trying to get it right, and it was a big deal. And so leading up to the Broadway opening, first of all, longest tech of any show I've ever been in, both in Denver, and then we did it all again for Broadway. Just I think we had a month of tech, which is long, and there's so many long days, and but it was amazing to watch it come to life. Like, what a process to be part of. And so um, opening night was amazing for Frozen. The party, I I'd been at the 20th anniversary of Lion King a few months before. Now that was a spectacular Broadway party. I mean, they did everything right. If you'd been in the cast on Broadway, you had tickets like house seats. You're right down front. So we're all there watching the show and seeing everybody I know. And Broadway, uh, my wife and I go, and then the curtain comes down and comes back up, and Elton John's on stage and he sings, and everybody's, it's like, and then the party was just spectacularly done. And then Frozen, I thought it was going to be the greatest opening night party of all time, and it was. And my brother and his wife were there from Canada, and my best friend from Canada, his wife, and um, my wife and I, and brought them. And I said, "This is going to be spectacular. Black tie. Wife has done Rent the Runway with this unbelievable gown. My wife's a knockout anyway, and she's like, looks like straight off the runway. She's just spectacular." And then we're at this thing that felt like a club, like couldn't see anything, couldn't see anybody. Went up, and I'm one of the leads in the show. I go to this area, and the guy's like, "Can't go in here." It was like this nice sort of seating area, and there's like 4 people in there. He's like, "This VIP something," and I was like, "Dude, the casts are at Broadway opening. The casts are the VIPs generally. Like, you're treated like, the people involved in the production." And they're like, anyway, I shouldn't diss it. That's terrible. We'll edit this part out. But it was a disappointing opening night party. It did not fit the build up at all. Didn't matter. My family was there. We ended up, we're like, we had a great time, and the actors sort of found each other eventually, and we had a great night. And the next day went to a day spa with the 6, it was like celebrating, living the dream again. But that doesn't answer your question. Sorry. I still obviously am hurt by the fact that party wasn't the greatest thing of all time, but did the pressure lay off? That's a great question. I think for me, then it became the joy of doing a run of a Broadway show. I loved my dressing room mates. We just came to work. I loved my dresser. I had relationships with all the crew guys, still play poker online with the crew guys. I just loved going to work. So I didn't really feel pressurized by it. There were moments where things would come up, and, we'd have a cast meeting, and there were always like celebrities, and constantly do like other people coming and stuff like that. But it didn't, in my journey, it didn't affect me. Like, I just like going to work. I had a great time right there on 44th Street, St. James Theater. Doesn't get any more iconic than that. So yeah, the pressure laid off. I would say it laid off a bit after the fact. For me, it's like, I didn't think about it. So I will say this, though. They started each year, you had to get invited back to your role. Like, as a principal, you're on a 1-year contract. So there were certain people, like, some people didn't get invited back each year, and not because they weren't fantastic, obviously, but sometimes they just wanted something different in that role, or they brought in someone who was known on the Disney Channel to do, you know. Um, and so I guess I felt that a little bit, but I was like, I don't know why they would, I couldn't control that, and I'm doing the best I can. So I just chose not to worry about it and kept getting renewed. So I was fortunate, but yeah, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess kind of Frozen as a whole, like you mentioned, it's this iconic like monopoly almost at this point. I guess why do you think Frozen in particular, like doing that show, how did you see that resonate with audiences, and why do you think that was the case?
Well, I think it resonated in so many ways, and relevant ways these days. I mean, those though to have two women as the central characters and to have their journeys, you got to see more of like Elsa's backstory and Anna's backstory in the play than you did in the movie. And I think that I think there are so many great lessons to young women in there, about owning your strength and, um, it at the end they choose the love, the family love, as opposed to needing the love of a man or another person. They chose their sister over it all, and some of the other stuff worked out. But that's, there's so many great lessons in there, and I think it was very timely in that way, and I think it will continue to resonate for young people, especially young women. I think I loved personally when Aisha was the understudy. She's black, and when she played Princess Anna, I thought it resonated. I have like personal stories at the end where I was out signing programs, and this Aisha's there, and this mother. I can remember this one in particular, where this mother with her two daughters, and the mom was white, kids were black. It was the mother, and she's crying, and she because her daughters had said to her, "Mom, she looks just like me. The Princess Anna looks just like me." And I was like, I'm like signing programs, cry, because it was so moving to know that she had impacted those little girls will remember that for the rest of their life. I think that's why on Broadway now it's been such a great. There's gonna be a lot of things change from 14 months ago because of Black Lives Matter and other things. A lot um, important and better representation in various ways on Broadway. I got to see it. So that was one thing that really resonated. Um, the casting of Frozen was very interracial and all different shapes and sizes and ages and skin tones and you name it. And I think that is a great message for young people to see. It does, um, so that it resonated in that way, and Disney's good at that, and they'll continue to do that, and hopefully even do it more. So the messages and that fact I think was really good. Yeah, Westleton didn't have a big song, like a big aria, which I think was disappointing for the audience personally. But
Maybe one day.
one day, well, I pitched Bobby and Kristen Lopez. I said, we were joking. Denver, I'd be like, "You guys working on my song, or what's the deal?" I wrote one actually, a funny one, which I ended up in the aisle during tech one day, the assistant director, because I had joking sang it for him, and he's like, "Sing me your song." I was like, "Not a chance." He's like, "Sing it for us." They're like, "Come on, let's hear it." So I sang a little bit, and they're like, "Hey, that's pretty good. We're not going to use it, but it's good."
Oh my god, that's so funny.
The woo and wed a queen. How's it go? I want a duke is just a duke where I'm from. I've seen some queens with means who are teens, but none as fair as this. I wrote this song, was all my inner subtext while I'm standing waiting to meet them at the ball. And in my dream, in my little version, when I wrote this song, they're having their little thing and they go into silhouette, and the special comes on Westleton, and he sings this song about how he's going to woo and wed the queen and become the king of Arendelle and stuff. A duke is just a duke where I'm from. I'll never rise above. Anyway, it's been a couple of years since I thought of that song. I'll get back to you on that.
Oh my god, I really wish that made it into the show.
Wouldn't
So
that have been
now,
something?
you mentioned that you definitely think that there's going to be changes when Broadway reopens, and we definitely agree. So, what do you think you're looking forward to the most in terms of life post shutdown on Broadway?
Well, I think that I'm not I'm not a producer, but I think that, and I hope that producers are understanding that there has been an underrepresentation um, on Broadway, and I'm hoping. So what I'm looking for is that there is, uh, in all sorts of shows, not just in shows that are typically, uh, which are black shows or mostly white shows with just a couple people of color in it or something like that. That there is, you're seeing people of color in roles where you never have before, and I hope that's happening because it should be happening. And um, and for me, last summer I remember thinking, and as with kids, I was educating myself about a lot of things. So as one of the things becoming instead of I would call myself obviously a non-racist, but becoming an anti-racist, right, as opposed to a non-racist, and sort of learning what that means and and how does that translate into my workspace and my career space, and being an ally and a supporter of those people who are trying to bring change to it. So I don't expect to be personally, if I'm called upon, I would be, but you're not like maybe out front with a voice, but you're standing right there behind going, yes, and as needed. And I'll sign that and I'll be there to show up for that. And I'll march for that, et cetera, because I think change is important. And I think it's happening. Hopefully it's happening in lots of different areas, but I love Broadway. I mean, I love it. I love Broadway. I love the community. I love the people. I like the people backstage, people on stage, I like going to Broadway. I just can't wait for it to be humming again, and for it to be
The
bringing
way,
the joy that it does. Um,
totally.
so we'll see how that all plays out. Yeah, but I miss it.
So do we. We are very excited for it to return,
Yeah, good,
back and better than ever.
good,
So
guys. I,
now,
I, I. You know what I have to do? Go cook dinner.
oh,
You heard
It,
before here, my wife is out, but I gotta wrap this up kind of soon. I'm so sorry. I love talking
no,
to you.
this is amazing. So I guess we'll wrap it up with this one then. We
Yeah,
like
give me like 2 more or something. I don't know,
sure.
but
So we talked a little bit about your kids and getting to have a family now. And we
yeah,
talked a little about this before we started filming, but I guess kind of if you want to talk about sort of how you've gotten to share the arts with your kids and any particular memories that stand out there.
I Emily, I think about it all the time. The I wonder what my kids will remember about. For example, when I would bring them to the St. James between shows, they'd come. My wife would bring them in maybe from we lived in New Jersey, but right across the Hudson in North Bergen, West New York area, and take the bus in. And I was 2 blocks away from Port Authority. I'd meet them. We'd go for dinner together, and then they'd come up to can we go? They always wanted to come into the theater and see everybody, so I'd take them down to the hair room, and it was like, hi RJ, hi Sam, and they'd talk to the hair ladies, and then go up to my dressing room, and they would always leave. There was a stash of candy at one of the guys' stations, and they'd put it in Kevin DeLaguila, who played Oaken's boots. So he always knew my kids were there because they would put little candies in his boots and stuff. And we go out on stage, and I have pictures of RJ and Sam dancing on stage, on the Frozen stage, St. James. Um, and I wonder about what they're going to remember from these, like, you know, I- it's just fun for me to think that they got to be at the St. James, at a Broadway theater, just hanging out and hanging out in the dressing room and seeing all the cool things backstage and stuff. It's unique, I think, for a kid. And I, lo- I love that they've been in the theater. They know how to be in the theater. They know how to sit and watch a show, even at a young age, and not talk and not be distracted and look at things. And um, you know, I I I like that. I like that they're going to grow up knowing how to be in the theater. I hope someday something. I'm older than you guys by decades. I get frustrated by the phone stuff in theaters. I really do. I just think it's such a unique art form, um, where you want to come and let it wash over you. Like, I wish there was a way to like digitally block everyone's phone when they walk in. So you like go across a force field. You sit in your seat and your phone only can receive like 911 messages or something. Other than that, it's shut down.
we completely agree.
Yeah, but
I
it's
would
just
love to see that.
right. So I don't know why I said that, but I like that my kids know the importance of sitting and respecting, and giving their energy to what's happening on stage. Um,
And just
they,
disconnecting from social media for a while and
yeah,
just be immersed in
exactly.
this
We
world.
listen to the XM Broadway channel in the car all the time. They sing, they have like a whole repertoire of The Sound of Music and Mary Poppins and uh, um, Peter Pan, and what are some of the fun? What's one of the fun ones? My son was just. Oh, he was singing Flounder. He's singing She's in Love. So we would. I should bang on his wall. He's right there and say, "Come give them a little treat and sing She's in Love." And he just wails on it. And Sam and I do the mermaids. And then hey, Flounder, you notice anything funny about Ariel? Yeah. She treats me, treats me like sashimi left over from last week. And he just rocks out and sings. So, I love that they're growing up in a music that excites me. And I don't have any expectations for what their passions will ultimately be and where they will follow their dreams. But I know that right now, for me, I love that I'm sharing all that with them. And I think it's a life enhancer for them. It certainly is for me that they are into it, So yeah, it's fun. They're like my little, we've been very philosophical throughout this conversation. Well, my poor kids, they get it all the time. They're like, you gotta want it. You gotta, we don't say can't in this house. We say I can, or I need a little help. Those are the only two options, but we don't say can't, so they get a lot of philosophy from me.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to end on so that you can go make dinner.
That's my job tonight.
This has been truly incredible. Like, it's been amazing to get to talk to you, Robert. Thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been amazing to get to hear your stories and soak in your philosophy. And
thanks, Emily. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for asking.
And I wish to connect with Robert on Instagram, follow at @RCreightonNYC, where you can keep up to date on his latest projects, and be sure to follow Theatrical Thoughts at Theatrical Thoughts Podcast on Instagram as well.
That's great. You guys are dynamite. I wish you all. You're gonna be running something big someday. I can just feel it. It's good.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We love
Wouldn't
having
it be
you on.
someday you'll be sign languaging a show that I'm in, Jess, and we'll reconnect. It'll be great.
That's the hope.
I love it. Good luck to you both. Thanks for chatting. It was fun.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it.
You bet. My pleasure. It was great.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next one. Bye.
Bye.